today the Commission has decided to fine NBC Universal, together with other companies in the Comcast group, 14.3 million euros for anti-competitive licensing and distribution practices which are illegal under EU antitrust rules. NBC Universal is a US company that operates television networks and film and TV producing companies all around the world. It also owns property rights to the characters in its movies and the themes, the images and the logos from those movies. And it licenses hundreds of companies in Europe to make and sell products which uses that intellectual property, things like Jurassic Park toys, Minions school bags, and Shrek mugs. In return, those licensees, they pay NBC Universal part of their sales revenue as royalty. You can find these products in millions of European homes. If you have children, there's a pretty good chance that it will be in your home too. NBC Universal's illegal behavior, well, that affected a full range of those products, from toys and sweets to clothes and mugs and household products. Its contracts with licensees divided up the European single market. And that took away choice from consumers and may also have affected prices. Our investigation found that NBC Universal used contracts to set out which countries these licenses could sell in and which ones they were banned from. In some contracts, NBC Universal also limited their freedom to sell products online. It even gave some licensees a list of customers that they were allowed to sell to. And these restrictions meant that shops couldn't freely choose which products actually to order from different European distributors. A department store in Spain couldn't sell an ET pajamas from a Belgian manufacturer because that manufacturer was banned from selling into Spain. So the extraterrestrial may have made it all the way to Earth, but was banned from Spain because of contractual restrictions. Meanwhile, a teenager in Sweden couldn't buy himself a Big Lebowski t-shirt online. So as a result of these restrictions, well, consumers, they lost out on choice and probably also on lower prices. In short, consumers, retailers, licensees, they were all deprived of the benefit from the single market. And today's decision makes it clear that brand owners cannot prohibit their non-exclusive licensees from selling in some member states or to certain customers or from selling online. This illegal behavior lasted for more than 6 years. It started in the beginning of 2013 when NBC Universal increased its licensing activities in Europe. That was ahead of the launch of the sequel to the very successful movie Despicable Me. It lasted until September 2019 when, in the course of our investigation, NBC told all its European licensees that those anti-competitive sales restrictions no longer applied. And this is why we have imposed a fine of 14.3 million euros. NBC Universal cooperated with the Commission in our investigation. It acknowledged the infringement and provided additional evidence, and they did that relatively early in the process. As a result, the company was granted a 30% reduction of the fine. This sort of cooperation is now a well-established antitrust procedure. In the last 2 years, we have adopted 10 decisions involving companies that have cooperated with us. And that is good news, because it means that we can enforce antitrust rules faster and more efficiently. So why does it matter? It's a small fine. Well, there are two good reasons. First of all, because those restrictions is all about merchandising. The second one is much broader. This industry, the merchandising industry, well, that is big business, and it's growing rapidly in Europe and around the world, and it's expected to keep growing. The merchandise sector in Europe is estimated to be worth around 50 billion euros last year, from a global total of 230 billion euros. And today's decision is the third antitrust decision which the Commission has taken in the merchandise sector in less than a year. In March last year, we fined Nike for similar behavior, including products that carried football club brands like FC Barcelona or Juventus. And in July, we fined Sanrio for a similar infringement to do with the merchandise featuring Hello Kitty and other characters. And these three decisions, they send a clear message. The Commission will not tolerate restrictions that undermine the single market. And that brings me to the second reason why this decision is important. Because the single market makes a vital contribution to our prosperity. It provides a better deal for consumers and more opportunities for businesses. Today's decision is part of our drive to make sure that the single market works well. The single market gives businesses the potential to reach out to almost 500 million consumers. And digitization has made it even easier for consumers to buy and for businesses to sell across borders in the European Union. And that ought to create opportunities for businesses, of course, including digital businesses, to grow. But in practice, there are still a number of obstacles to sell across border. Even today, only 1 in 5 European consumers buys online from retailers in other member states. So completing the single market is an important part of making Europe fit for the digital age. The obstacles to a full single market comes in many forms, including the contracts that stop retailers from selling cross-border within the European Union. The sector inquiry into e-commerce markets, which we carried out in the Commission's last term, well, we found that territorial restrictions, they were actually becoming increasingly common, both in contracts for the sale of consumer goods online and for those licensing digital products. And this is why it has been a priority for us to tackle anti-competitive restrictions to online and offline cross-border sales. For example, we fined GUS for limiting the ability of distributors of its clothes and accessories to sell cross-border and online. And we fined manufacturers of consumer electronics for limiting cross-border sales, for pressuring their online retailers to keep prices high. With today's decision, the total fine we've imposed on companies for creating barriers to cross-border trade in the single market comes to 184 million euros. And this is since we completed the sector inquiry in May 2017. This is complemented by other parts of the Commission's work. Take, for example, the geo-blocking regulation, which aims at removing unjustified geo-blocking when they restrict online shopping. So today's decision is not just about minions and dinosaurs and thralls. It's about consumers and businesses in the single market. It shows that the Commission is committed to making every effort to make sure that the single market throughout Europe is working better for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive